Hey, what's good, guys? What is today, dude? Today's Tuesday.
I don't
Tuesday.
know.
Yeah, crazy enough. So we're going to talk about some daily habits that have transformed our chronic illness journey. We're grateful to have Christina with us today. We've been able to connect through social media and have done Instagram lives and stuff,
Yeah.
but just a wealth of knowledge and just super happy to have you here. So could you introduce yourself? Tell us.
Yeah. Thanks, Christina.
Yeah, I'm stoked to be here. My name is Christina Kantzavelos. I am a licensed psychotherapist that specializes in healing chronic illnesses.
Yeah. And
Awesome.
so you had Lyme yourself. Like, what kind of give us a background on your story, because I think it'll be helpful for anyone that's listening to this to know like what you struggled with, what you suffered with, and
Sure.
kind of like where you're at. I know we've talked in the past, but it's good to kind of do like a little bit of an update of like health stuff, and then we'll dive into all the things we want to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've had chronic health issues since a
Yeah.
really young age, but nothing that was so over the top that kept me from working or going to school. And I think by the age of 19, I'd been diagnosed with POTS dysautonomia and then eventually celiac. But again, those weren't enough to keep me
Yeah.
from working. It made things like hiking and working out really hard, and I would faint here and there. But again, nothing so gnarly. That was until I went to Mexico. I was my past life. I always say past life before
Yeah.
finding
Yeah.
out I had Lyme disease was in humanitarian work. So I was doing disaster relief work in the country and internationally. And I was in Mexico after the earthquake in 2018 and ended up in the hospital there with Giardia and all kinds of fun things. And that just put me over the edge. It was just
Mhm.
like a snowball effect of all of the things, all of the symptoms. I couldn't, because wasn't able to drive. I could barely walk. And ultimately, I found a Lyme literate physician because I was being passed around like a hot
Yeah.
potato.
Right.
Well, like, you have this, we just want to put you on this steroid. And I was like, you're not putting me on a steroid. You need to tell me what's causing this, because the steroid is just a band-aid. And they couldn't figure it out. So anyway, I finally found a Lyme literate physician. It took a while, and he just took one look at me and he's like Lyme cat scratch fever, which I thought was just a song, and
Yeah.
Lyme. Like, I knew about Lyme peripherally, but I'd never really met someone who had it. I knew nothing about it. And as he's telling me this, my partner at the time is like Googling all of it, and he's like, oh my God, like, you literally, you
Yeah.
have all of these symptoms. So
Yeah.
that's when I began treatment. I was couch bound. My mom was my main caregiver. I could not care for myself. I couldn't drive for a
Mhm.
long time. I could barely get across the living room. I could not work. I thought it was going to kill me. There were moments where I'm like, this is it. Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not functional, and
Yeah.
I can't do anything for myself. It was really, really scary. I felt like a shell of a human being. Um, I didn't know if I even had a future. And that was when I basically had to take my health into my own hands and started doing all of this research on the mind body connection and
Yeah.
how trauma affects us and the different
Mhm.
foods out there. I had to take this real holistic approach with myself. I was already a pretty holistic person before this, but it was like, oh no, we're going in like 150%. Like
Right.
super wary of anything I put on and inside of my body, the music I listened to, what I was watching.
Right.
Everything, neural retraining. That came a little bit later, but
Yeah.
all of these things. And what I want to say is, like, here I am, and we discussed this right before we got on. Like, I'm in my worker right now. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a full-time nomad. I didn't even think I would be able to get on an airplane again, like just an
Mhm.
airplane. Like,
Yeah.
traveling, like road trips were impossible for me because I was so sick and I couldn't concentrate and I had horrific brain fog. And, so I went from this shell of a human to this person I am now, who's able to eat whatever they want, do whatever they want when they want. And like, I don't have these,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not even close to where I was. I would argue I'm actually healthier than I was before I got
Yeah.
sick.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's amazing. That's awesome to hear.
So my question would be, and while we're talking about daily habits and stuff, do you feel that shifting some of those daily habits played a role in your healing, like, how you wake up in the morning, what it is you do, how you go to bed,
Yeah,
some
yeah,
of these things that we do, especially in the realm of mind body healing. And I always hate using the term mind body healing because it sounds so woo woo, and it's really not. It's all of it's
yeah, exactly.
so much of it is based in science, but there's no money to be profited from it. So, it's really kind of just swept under the rug, even though if someone wants to really go search, lots and lots of science to support it and its role that it plays in chronic illness.
Yeah,
It's the idea that the mind and body can even be separated is comical to me, because these two things aren't separate.
yeah,
And then when someone tells you like it's all in your head, the head is attached to the rest of
yeah,
my body. So
exactly.
your your argument is a little bit null. But to answer your question, Josh, like yes, definitely played a huge part. It's those little shifts that add up, I feel like,
Mhm.
the most. And like you said, like how you wake up, I mean, starting with just positive
Yeah,
affirmations or
exactly.
visualizations on just the day,
Definitely.
celebrating little wins,
Mhm.
practicing gratitude, like those little things, aside from like the nutrition and
Yeah.
lifestyle and aspect around that. Yeah.
Awesome.
I agree. I think it's always everyone talks about, what are these, everyone wants to have these big sort of things that they did that got them well. For some people they're looking for that, like that magic bullet treatment or whatever. And ultimately, like you said, it's the little things that add up over time, over the course of months and honestly years, that really shift our health for the better. Sure, there are certain things that, we can do, that kind of aid our body in healing, but it's never like the big thing. It's always the little things that add up and shift, um, our health for the better. And that's what I found on my journey. And I know that Josh is the same way. And that's what we kind of like, we teach. So yeah, I mean, it's great that you echo that as well.
And I think it's important to highlight. So we'll start at the very beginning of this. You said something like affirmations and
Yeah.
gratitude. People are like, oh, there they go talking about spiritual nonsense again. No,
Yeah.
you can go to any historical, religious text, biblical, whatever, and look at
Yeah.
and then even go through medical science and look at what gratitude actually does to your body when it's practiced. Now, if you sit down in the morning and the first thing you do is, okay, cool, I got a roof over my head and I like my cat. She smells good. Whatever, But it's actually, we wake up in the morning and when we're chronically sick, what is the first thing our mind goes to? It goes to
Yeah.
fear. We're inundated with fear. We're thinking about our symptoms. We're going to these support forums. We're doing all these things. We're grabbing our phones first thing. We're doing all these toxic habits that keep us sick. So when we decide to push those aside and say, hey, look, I'm going to practice, and this is just, I'm going to write some affirmations about being healthy, healing, whatever, and then I'm going to practice gratitude. Not only am I going to write what I'm grateful for, but I'm going to feel it. And
Yeah.
it doesn't change with one session, two sessions. But
Yeah.
when you do that consistently, morning, night, morning, night, morning, night, morning, night, 30, 40 days in, you're going to notice a shift. And that's just one of the daily things. So I'm curious, do you meditate? Is there anything else that you kind of include
Yeah.
in like a daily routine that's been, pivotal for your healing journey?
Well, what I want to share first is when I was really
Yeah.
sick, I was in this loophole of victimization. Uh,
Hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I
We've all
can't
been
believe,
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like I can't
Yeah.
believe this is happening to me. I'd wake up and I'm like, oh my God, what's today even gonna look like? I can barely move. I'm
Yeah.
so sick. I mean, all of this like really, really negative self-talk. Why is my body trying to kill me?
Mhm.
Why, like, who, like, literally, I was just thinking, like, who cursed me in this life? I mean, all the
Oh, the
things
same way.
you can think
Yeah.
of, right? And
Yeah.
I realized, I'm like, wait a second, this isn't like helping me what
Yeah.
it's doing. And let's get scientific about this, because people will get woo woo about like the gratitude and everything. Like every time you have that negative self-talk, you are releasing cortisol
Exactly.
every single time. Same with what goes in. If you're listening to stressful music or you're watching a scary movie, I tell my clients, no scary movies,
Yeah. Yeah.
stay away from politics as much as you can. Like that input that's coming in, like your body is responding to that. It's keeping you in fight or flight.
Mhm.
So you're right, you're either feeding your fight or flight, or you're feeding your rest and repair. You get to make the choice. I know that I was feeding my fight or flight, because I was on this like hamster wheel of just like, woe is me, this is horrible, this is going to be the rest of my life. I don't even have a life. Am I even going to survive it? Okay.
Right. Yeah.
And I realized, I'm like, this has not been working so far. So the woo, like, I was like funny about the woo, and I'm like, you know what? Won't hurt to try. So when I started shifting things, and it's various things, like journaling every single day for
Yeah.
sure. Listening to binaural beats, healing hertz music,
Yeah.
meditating, even just being silent with myself, being in nature, being exposed to nature if and when I could,
Mhm.
grounding, um, all of these things. And sometimes they would look different every single day. But with all of those things, right, I was now releasing the opposite of cortisol, serotonin, dopamine. So cortisol, for those who don't know, literally inflames the body. Like, it's great
Mhm.
to have when you're actually running away from a tiger, or you're in like a
Yeah.
very chaotic situation you need to escape from. That's amazing that we have that capability. It is not meant to be turned on all of the time. So here I am, like, super sick, and I'm just adding more fire to the flame, versus now I'm starting to now take the water buckets out with the gratitude, with the journaling, all these mind body activities that bring on like, who have been proven, scientifically proven, to release serotonin and dopamine. And so with that consistency is key. You guys preach this and know
Yeah.
this the
Yeah.
most. When I have a client that's like, I tried that for how long? Like 2 weeks, and it didn't work.
Like, that's not enough.
That's not,
You're not
it
even
takes, like, I'm
focused.
like, wait, how long have you been alive, and how long have you been sick? Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
we'll reduce that in like, we're just gonna reverse that in 2 weeks. No, that's not how this, unfortunately. That would be great if I had a magic wand and could be like, it's gone.
Exactly. Yeah.
But this is something that takes a while. And I think that's why, like, the journaling was such an important piece, and why I created my journal is because
Yeah.
I would see in the pages, 20 pages back, that I was like, oh, wow, I'm actually sleeping a little less, or I have more energy, or I'm able to now eat this food that I wasn't able to before.
Mhm.
I mean, I was able to see that there was a positive trajectory. Now, from day to day, you would not have noticed that, or I wouldn't have noticed that.
Yeah.
But
That's hard.
that's but that's why I have my clients all write down their wins every day, because
Yeah.
every little thing is a win. And every time you celebrate a win, that's the reward center in your brain, aka dopamine, going ding 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 into
Yep.
your body. Dopamine, serotonin reduce inflammation. They are medicine. All these things are medicine.
Exactly.
Absolutely. That's, dude, real quick. It's so relieving to hear everything that you're saying. Absolutely everything you said is what we preach consistently.
Yeah.
And the unfortunate part is, people, like you said, they do it for 2 weeks and they're like, I'm not feeling anything, and I'm going to revert back to our old habits. And that's why I think it's so important that we talk about these daily habits, because that it is, we need to get out of that constant state of fight or flight. And a lot of people are in it subconsciously and they don't even
Yeah.
realize it, and
Yeah.
getting into rest and repair.
Yeah, it's so important to just be conscious of it first. Like that is like you said in the beginning here, is like, you have to be conscious that you're making poor choices and decisions that are keeping you in fight or flight, that are dumping and releasing that cortisol. And for a lot of people, even that's a step in the right direction. Just being conscious, like, oh, I am contributing to my poor health by waking up, focusing on how bad I feel. Like, now you're conscious of it. Now you can kind of make that shift. Like, okay, now that I'm conscious of that, now that I'm conscious of, like, I can't add more stress and more fuel to this fire of a chronic illness. Now it's like the obvious choice is like to do things that are going to benefit you. Now, what is that? Obviously we have all of our different things, and you had mentioned,
Yeah.
journaling and doing all of these things. For us, we're the same way. We've developed sort of a morning routine and evening routine to help sort of combat that stress and all of that fear and all of that bias of, like, negativity, to then sort of push us in the direction of health. And I think it's I think everyone's different. Everyone is different. It's not one size fits all. And I think that's what's great when you work with, different whatever coaches or different people. It's like, there is no program that is the way. It is, everyone has their own way to heal, and I think it's just implementing those daily practices, those daily habits, routines, that
Consistent.
work for you. Yeah, and sticking to them.
Yeah.
So
And
Yeah.
I think it's important too, guys, that we highlight, because people might come into this video and they're like, these guys are telling me that journaling and this stuff is going to. I have a real chronic illness, guys. I have Lyme disease. I have
Yeah.
whatever it is that they're
What do
consistently
we?
identifying. So I'm curious to hear your perspective. For these people that have these different chronic illnesses, and they think, well, you guys are telling me it's all in my head, because that's essentially what it can sound like to someone that's in that victim mindset. Is that how is this going to help me heal from my chronic illness? I'm curious what your response to them would be.
So, not saying it's in your head. I am saying it's in your brain. I
Yeah.
am saying it's in your brain because that reptilian brain, the limbic system, keeping you in fight or flight. Like if and I think I've talked to you guys about this, right? Like we have this tiger chasing us. Like likely we were traumatized at a young age, and again, and we this tiger has like essentially stayed behind us all of these years, and fire has been, I mean, fuel has been added to the fire. Also with chronic illness, because that's a trauma in and of itself. It was very traumatic for me. I know it's so traumatic for so many people. And it's so we need to get that tiger out. We need to convince your brain that tiger has left the room. It was there at various points. It is not there right now, because until your brain realizes you are actually safe,
Yeah.
you are going to stay in fight or flight. And what happens with staying in fight or flight is that healing stays on the back burner, because all your brain cares about is getting you from point A to point B of safety. It does not care about your happiness
Yeah,
or anything
exactly.
else. It could care less. I got to the point where, and I didn't share this earlier, I was so sick. I was down to very few ingredients I could even consume without an EpiPen.
Yeah.
If you wanted to hang out with me, you had to wash your clothes in like neutral smelling detergent. I became essentially like homebound, and I was scared to be out in public because if I smelled mold, I mean, I was, like I said, I was like this shell of a human being. I could not function in society. So, and when I started doing the neural retraining work and understanding the brain's role in this, and realizing like not everything's out there to kill me,
Yeah.
including these ingredients that are so nutrient dense and healthy and nourishing for me, things really started to shift. The tiger started to leave the room. And what happens when the tiger leaves is all of a sudden healing happens at warp speed, because it's not on the back burner anymore. Your brain's like, oh, we're safe enough to heal this. So
Yeah.
what I want to share, and back to how I was before with like the negative self-talk. I was in the Facebook groups.
Yeah.
I was into all the things that were telling me I'm a victim and I have chronic illness and this is going to be the rest of my life and I'm doomed, and like all the things feeding into my identity of I am chronic illness versus I am healing from chronic illness. So when I shifted that identity, so if you're listening, it's the shift of the identity.
Mhm.
You are not your chronic illness. You are you, and you are healing from it. Like that's the
Yes,
first shift that needs
exactly.
to happen. And then, like you said, building awareness around your taking responsibility and accountability from how you contribute to your own fight or flight, like keeping you
Yeah.
in this identity. And the way right, I always say like the way we got sick is often the way we like reverse now to get healthy. And it's groups like yours that are empowerment focused and
Yeah.
health focused. Like you guys aren't just going to be talking about how awful, yes, you're going to touch on how awful chronic illness is,
Yeah.
and you're going to touch on how to feel better and heal from it. And I
Yeah.
also facilitate a free monthly support group called the Empowerment Circle through San Diego Lyme Alliance. And that's also the focus, is that you guys, you leave feeling empowered. And I want to share that whatever
Yeah.
you do, be it a treatment, a person you hang out with, a place you go to, check on your nervous system. Do you feel like you have more energy after and feel
Yeah.
better? Or do you feel depleted and stressed and anxious? Check it. Like you have this internal nervous system checkpoint, if you will, that you can
Right.
always check in with to
I,
gauge.
I agree.
Yeah.
That's such an important question to ask people, is like where, because you can feel it. We all feel it when you're feeling more keyed up in fight or flight. Like your body feels it. That's the thing too. Is like, you know, we often talk about, it's sometimes hard to distinguish what are the symptoms of fight or flight, being in stress response, versus what is the chronic illness, and they overlap in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
And one feeds into the other. And so
Right.
for me, like I always notice, if I'm under more stress, if I'm around people that are kind of depleting my energy, if I'm doing things that are not good for my body, I feel worse. You know what I mean? And for a lot of people with chronic illness, that's a big part of it is like, are you doing things that are making you feel worse? Even though it might be in your comfort zone or being like what you're told that is going to help you, or are you actually doing things that are helping you feel better throughout the day? And that's such a big part of it.
I
And
agree.
and it's not a one size fits all
Yeah,
approach.
yeah,
Back to that point.
yeah,
Like something that feels really good to me may not feel good
yeah,
to you guys.
exactly. Yeah,
And yeah, I know like when I paint, I feel amazing after, but someone may be really critical of their artwork. So it
yeah,
actually puts them
yeah,
into further like dysregulation. So it
yeah,
has to be something that feels specifically nourishing to you. Just because you saw it on Instagram or Facebook or
yeah,
whatever doesn't mean it's
exactly.
right for you.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly.
And I think that all these things are important, and we can dive into a little bit of like what our routines look like.
Yeah, I think it'd
But I
be a
think that there's a
point.
lot of people out there that still are so I wish that I would have come to this realm of healing long before, because I was much like you. I couldn't be around people that had perfume. Same
Yeah,
thing. Like, I mean, I went through a crazy mold thing where like I stripped down in a Target. I literally, it's a crazy story. I stripped down all my clothes in Target. I had to buy new clothes. I left my old clothes in the Target. I actually bought a new car in the Target parking lot because I thought I cross contaminated my old car. I was living in a tent, and this is what our mind does to us. And there's so many people. Well, I'm so sick. This won't work for me. And you're right. It's not going to work for you because you're saying exactly what your body should be doing. But you're like, how does this essentially work? Well, obviously, if you're on high alert, if the tiger's chasing you, if you have every alarm system constantly going off on your body for days, months, years, what happens? You're exhausted, adrenal fatigue sets in, all these hormonal imbalances come, so much
mhm,
detriment comes to your body, and you can't heal. Your immune system cannot do its job. Your body was designed to heal. We talk about this all the time in the simplest terms. If I'm not stressed, if I'm doing great and I accidentally cut my arm on something and I sit there, I don't have to tell my body to heal. It heals. It knows what to do. I break a bone. It knows what to heal. It is the very same thing with these chronic illnesses and infections that we have. The body knows how to heal when we get out of the way. But if the tiger's chasing us, if all these alarms are going on, the body's not focused on healing. The
yeah,
body's focused on trying to keep you safe from whatever monster we're creating in our mind.
yeah,
So
That's it.
yeah, that's it. So what happens is, yes, the Lyme is real. Yes, long COVID's whatever it is you've been diagnosed with
yeah,
across the board for most chronic illnesses. What we've seen symptomatically, patients are primarily the same. They all have the same commonalities, which revert back to some form of inflammation or being stuck in that perpetual state of fight or flight and the dump of cortisol and adrenaline constantly going through your veins.
yeah,
Doesn't mean you're constantly consciously anxious. It could be subconscious.
yeah,
But when that calms down, when the alarms come off, when the tiger goes, takes a nap in the woods, because guess what? He's going to come back and it's
yeah,
not legal. There's going to be
Yeah.
things. But when things calm down and the body regulates and we go into rest and digest, the immune system starts to kick in, and that's where it starts to do its job. So a lot of these people, the reason that chronic illness is because we stay in a state of chronic stress. We eat garbage. We don't move our bodies. We do all these things because I don't know if it was like this for you. When I got sick, I stopped moving. I stopped moving my body. I stopped exercising.
yeah,
I thought
Me
same.
that I
too.
was going to have a heart attack if I did
Me too.
anything. I was
Yeah,
having palpitations and all these things, but it's because my nervous system was fried and I was doing all this. So for the person that's listening, yes, absolutely, this is the way. You don't need to go see, hundreds of doctors. And obviously, if there's something critical going on, go see a doctor.
yeah,
But I have never seen one specific doctor treat chronic illness patients better than 30%. Never. I've never seen
yeah,
it happen. I've never seen, you get a bunch of antibiotics thrown at you and pick lines. And I had $100,000 in medical debt. My house was foreclosed on. I lost my cars, all because I believed in the current medical system to treat chronic illness, and it just doesn't do it successfully.
yeah,
The information and the power is there. So let's turn this over. So for us, and I'll briefly go over mine. My morning and my daily routine is what saved my life. When I used to wake up in the morning, this is the first thing that I would grab. I would grab this and I would go to those very same support groups that you were talking to. And I needed to feel validated. I needed to not feel so alone, that I
yeah,
wasn't crazy in my head, that the derealization, depersonalization, the brain fog, the heart palpitation, that I wasn't the only one feeling this, because I physically looked healthy and everybody thought that I was crazy. So I needed
yeah,
that. I didn't need it, but I thought that I needed that validation. And at the end of the day, no one's coming to save you. Those people aren't going to come pull you off your couch and
yeah,
help you heal.
No.
So as we began to kind of dive into daily routines, we got up and we walked every single day. Even if we didn't feel like, we took our symptoms, we put them in the sack with us, we calmed down, we accepted what we couldn't change, and we moved through it. I would get up in the morning and I would meditate and I would visualize and believe that there was a better life outside this chronic illness. Like you said, as you paint, for me, there was different things that I began to do that I loved that distracted the mind while we were going through this, while I was healing, that were huge. I would write down what I was grateful for. We two kind of came up with a journal, and we write our affirmations. We write a plan. We write what fears we're facing. We're not fighting them. We're surrendering to them and walking through them, allowing them to do whatever it is. And what I realized is, as I began to do this morning and night, if I took days off, I lost my progress. Morning, night, morning, night, morning, night. The alarms started slowly shutting down, and I began to start physically feeling better. And I feel like, my immune system did its job. Now we know that it's not linear. We know that there's times that it'll feel great, and then all of a sudden, whoop, we're on another ride. And we let fear and
roller
stress
coaster.
It's a roller coaster.
We have to break that
yesterday.
A lot of people give up on their routines because they go on a downslope, and that's where we need to buy in more, because I think that's where the most healing happens.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What's your, like, what are some of your daily sort of habits? A couple things. Do you still practice these things now that you're mostly well? And what kind of were some of the things that you implemented early on when you were really sick? Then how did your daily like habits evolve? Because I think that's a big part. And after you chat, I'll kind of go into some of the things that have helped me, because I think, like we said, everyone's different. Josh has his, like, they're all similar things, but we kind of make them work for us in different ways. And we'd love to hear yours. Maybe it'll inspire some other people that are watching this to make some of these daily habits and these changes.
Well, I really want to just piggyback off what Josh said with the cortisol for a couple of things. Number one, for those who have dysautonomia, which so many people who have Lyme have dysautonomia, POTS, etc., neurogenic syncope, etc. When cortisol is pumping through your veins, it actually dilates your veins. I learned this through neural retraining. So when your veins are consistently dilated, imagine how challenging it then is for your blood to go to your critical areas, right? It's naturally, of course, it's going to flood into your extremities, and then you faint because you don't have enough, right, blood flow in your heart and your brain. So I want to share that, number one. Number two, it is said that 90 to 95% of energy is expended running away from the tiger when you're in chronic fight or flight. 90%. And imagine if that tiger goes away, how much of that energy you get to reclaim for yourself. Like, that's what this is. That's what you guys are like showing proof. Like, we're all showing proof of this. Like, we can reclaim that energy back from constantly running from this tiger. So to answer your question though, like back then, like when I was really, really sick, I mean, it was non-negotiables of, because I was scared of the sun for so long. The sun hurt me, and I was on I was on things that made you very sensitive to the sun. But I started learning about what the sun actually does for us and how important it is. And I don't know if you guys followed Dr. Chelsea Hunt, but she's huge on sunlight and what that, like, she believes that is what heals us. Like that's her perspective. So like I started just like implementing these things. Like I would force myself as I gained more energy, because I was couch bound and I'd gotten to the point where I was too scared to work out because I thought my heart was going to explode or I would faint. Like fun, either one. But even if someone was holding me up, I would move my body. I was like, no, we're doing this. And I also had the Lyme literate physician I worked with had a physical therapy office attached. So they had like a POTS program. They had someone who was literate to get me moving even on the couch or on the bed. So I took little steps in terms of movement every single day. I journaled every single day. And that include, like I said, I was creating this journal for myself, not for other people, because I couldn't find it. So, I mean, what gratitude, something I was proud of myself for the day. What did I eat? Food, of course, like that was also an important component that was part of my daily life, ensuring that I was getting the most nutrient dense diet possible for
Yeah.
myself. Um, Again, listening to relaxing music. I couldn't really handle television. My brain, I just
Mm.
cognitively, it was too much for me.
Right.
So that I started watercolor painting because I used to acrylic paint, but I was too sensitive to smells at that point. So watercolor is neutral, there's no scent to it. So I started painting every day, even if it wasn't my regular medium, it felt really soothing to my nervous system. Like I said, I would try to get into nature
Mm.
every single day, or just to even be underneath a tree.
Yeah.
These were a lot of the things I would do. I took myself out of those groups. Instead, I started watching and listening to healing stories.
Yeah.
That's all I
Yeah.
flooded myself with. I'm like, even though in my head, I'm like, I remember when I started neural retraining, I'm like, this is probably possible for them, but not for me. I'm too
Yeah.
sick for this to work on me. And I think that's what people are
Everyone
probably,
feels,
as
yeah,
they're
everyone
listening.
feels that, and no one's alone in that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I had to literally create these new neural pathways of I can heal. I
Mm.
believe and I can heal from this. These people can. I've listened to so many stories. What makes me so special that I can't heal from this? That's
Exactly.
so I and those habits shifted and changed. I mean, I wouldn't look at my phone straight thing in the morning
Yeah.
like Josh did, and same at night, not before I went to bed. Just like soothing music, or if I had the capacity to read, depending on how awful my brain fog and just how I was feeling that state was. So yeah, these things shifted as time went on, as I got more energy, or I'd have dips, right? Where I'm like, all of this feels like impossible, or I've taken back 10,000 steps back. Um, but at this point, like things have shifted in the way of like, I still need to be in nature every day. I still am creative every day. I still do some component of journaling every single day. I am constantly in a state of gratitude, even when something awful happens, or I feel like, ooh, I'm flaring or something. I'm in my gratitude. Like,
That's
and
great.
trust. I know that my body can heal
Yeah.
from. I know I'm taking a dip right now. It's the roller coaster. I know I'm taking a dip,
Exactly.
and I know that it never has lasted forever.
Hmm.
And I know that this too shall pass, because it
Yep.
always does.
Love
Yeah,
that.
I write that on my arm. Is like when I'm in a flare, I'm gonna eventually get it tattooed on my arm. But I write this too shall pass, because it's like something you have to remind yourself when you're going through the ups and downs. I mean, life in general is ups and
Yeah.
downs. Even if you don't have a chronic illness, it's like
Yes.
it's so easy to get focused, so narrowly focused that like this is gonna be my life for the rest of my life. And when you're going through the rough periods, it's like we have to continually remind us this is just a moment. This is a moment. Sometimes the moment lasts days, weeks, months, but it's just a moment and it's going to pass. And there are going to be other moments that are beautiful and you're going to enjoy and good things are going to happen. So it's always important to do that. I loved hearing that because I think we all, everyone's got different stuff. And I think it's really beneficial to hear from different people. Josh has his, me and Josh do similar things, as we all do similar things, when we're trying to heal. But there are all these little nuances that I think, you know, in people in our class, we encourage them to take healing into their own hands and to make it their own. And I think that that's a big part of it. Is like if you're looking outside of yourself, like I'm going to do this because this is what worked for that person. Again, it's like you're trying. Yes, there are elements that all can work across all things, visualization, gratitude, all of that. But then there are like the little nuance things, and I think that that's where the important stuff is. For Josh, it was like, I know Josh plays guitar, and that's part of a regulating thing for him. And for you, it's like the art and all that sort of stuff. For me, it's like, I mean, I skateboard. I don't know. Most people like wouldn't think that's a regulating thing, but I go out and cruise along the water every single day, and I get out in nature every single day. Like I will put my feet in the grass, I will sit on the grass, I will sit there and just be present every single day, multiple times a day. Just do regular breathing practices, like slow, deep breathing practices, and just be present. I'll sit on a park bench, I'll sit in the grass, and I'll just notice things and try to be grateful, even if I'm, like you said, if I'm going through a flare, a dip, or whatever. It's like, all right,
Yeah.
what do I have in this moment that I can be grateful for? Um, And for a lot of people it's really hard, when you're really early in it, especially like all of us have been incredibly sick, where it's like we can't even get out of bed, and you're like, how the hell am I going to be grateful for things? Well, this is where like it sometimes we have to go back to the basics, the fundamentals. And like for me it was like, what do I have that other people don't have? I can see right now. I might not see well because I like, my vision's all blurry and stuff like, but I can still see right now. There are people that are born blind, there are people that are, that have lost their vision. You know, what else can I do? I can walk. I have legs. You know what I mean? Like there's some, and a lot of people be like, well, what, like, how is this going to help me? Like it really sometimes is those basic things that we completely take for granted, going back to those things,
Yeah.
and that's what I do when I'm in a flare and a funk. It's like going back to the basics, man. Like I have the ability to heal. Some people don't have that. Some people are on their, like, their deathbed, as dark as that may sound.
Yeah.
um I
Uh,
think it's just important to do those, to get into to that those habits, yeah. And there is one thing that I do every day and have for a while. Like we all talked about, um, mornings are rough when you're in it, and when I relapsed, and prior to that, when I was healing, when I was really struggling, um, I would have to wake up, and this is a habit that I developed, where even before I open my eyes, what could go right today? Because it's like before, when I would open my eyes in in the past, and I would be in this, feel like I'm plugged into a socket, like just, right into fight or flight, right into, oh my God, like alarms going off. Like I would wake up into that every day. And it was like, hold up, I gotta shift this. So like
yeah.
before I even opened my eyes, like what could go right today? Like maybe I could feel moments of peace. Maybe I could just feel comfortable in my body, even just for a little bit. Maybe I could have a good conversation with a friend. Maybe something, good could happen to me. Maybe I could, whatever. And this is where you make it your own. But that's a big thing that I think, is anyone can do. We can sit there and do that. It's hard. I mean, because the brain wants to go to negativity, and this is where we have to shift. But that's a part of it.
Yeah. I think that's vital. I think that all three of us are kind of, so for me, I'm always transparent. Like I'm not 100% better. I still
Yeah,
have my
yeah,
days.
and
I'm
same.
still pulling out of it. I know Joe's still in there, and yeah,
Yeah,
and I
we're
think,
consistently healing, guys.
yeah,
Yeah,
healing.
yeah,
So once we do this, for me, I don't think, Christina, you don't have kids, right? You do? No, no,
uh,
no. I said, do you have kids? That's kind of like what's cool about this is being able to give different perspectives from this. Is I think as some people come in, obviously there's different parts of this journey. I think that and coming in and doing my routine in the morning, it can be difficult because I have little ones that are just absolutely crazy. That's the only way to describe the things that happen in this house. Joe knows because he's been here and witnessed it firsthand. And I think what happens is a lot of people begin to make excuses for why they can't get into these routines and they don't prioritize healing.
yeah,
And I think people want a quick fix, and there's no quick, easy. The plan is simple, the work is hard, and that's what we tell people is if you're trying to plan for your healing journey to be a very simple, easy process, it's not. You're going to
yeah,
walk on hot coals. It's going to be very difficult. There's going to be days where you just don't want to get up and do it or believe it, or it's going to feel like it's not working. And that's why I think we all agree that journaling is so important, and we talk about that to be able to go back and to flip and look at the progress and remember the good days and
yeah.
use those as fuel on
Celebrate
the
the
days you're
wins.
struggling. But when I wake up in the morning, the first thing that I do is I don't grab this. Now, I'll be honest, there are some days that this stupid thing, if I could throw this thing in the ocean and never pick it up again, I would do it with a whole heart and happily. I hate responding to texts. I hate responding to messages. The only reason we keep social media alive is because of business. It's the only way to be able to do business. But aside from that, so I come down, I pray and I read. I make a cup of tea. Joe got me on that. So I'll have
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Tea is my thing.
yeah, I'll grab my journal. I'll
Yeah.
sit down and I'll write in my journal. I'll write what I'm grateful for. I'll write my affirmations, any fears that I'm feeling, because we talked with the mindful gardener, dude's solid guy. He talked about, we run from fear. Fear is a blessing. Fear is the compass that shows us where we need to go on our healing journey.
Yeah.
And, we see fear as this terrible thing, but when we embrace it, I think that's where healing really happens. Okay, I'm fearful towards here. That's what I need to begin walking towards. So what we do is we write down some fears that we need to face. And it's not like we jump off a bridge and we face them all in one day, not at
Yeah.
all. It's a brick by brick approach. Even with walking, when I first started walking every single morning, like same thing, like I had POTS really bad. We tell the story often where Joe and I were walking, and I was like, I can't do it anymore. I sat down on the curb and he dumps water on my head. He's like, "Dude, what are you?" And some days it was to the end of the street. Other days I was able to walk miles. And now it's consistent because I feel like the POTS is resolved for the most part.
Yeah.
But it is getting up. It is doing qigong and getting that energy movement. I take my shoes off and I go walk around in the grass, and I'm always in the sun. I'm always in the sun.
Yeah.
I'm always trying to find ways to get into nature because I believe that that's healing. And like you said, these are my non-negotiables, regardless of whatever else is going on in my life.
Yeah.
These are things that I'll always stick to. I'll wake up and I'll pray. I'll wake up and I'll do qigong. I'll wake up and I'll journal. I'll wake up and I'll meditate and visualize healing and what it is I want to do in the future, because then that gives me a goal of something to look forward to on the tough days. And then I do the same exact thing at night. And
Yeah.
I will not compromise these things for anything. It's like brushing my teeth and taking a shower. They've
Yeah.
become those because I understand that's that. And it's the same thing with diet. I don't really cheat on my diet, because I know that, for me, we can probably eat anything that we want. We stick to a specific diet, but I'm not going out and eating cheesecake and
Anti-inflammatory.
Snickers and stuff like that because I know the chemicals that are in it. But that, and we maintain movement, and it's literally that simple. Shut down the alarms, eat healthy, move your body again, get out of the way, let it heal, and you begin to heal. And I don't know why it's so overcomplicated, and I don't know why information like this is suppressed. Well, I mean, we know why. We know why it's suppressed, but yeah. We sit here, and the people that are watching this that are going to be so skeptical of it. It can't just be that simple, and it's not. It's hard work. You got to wake up every single day. But either you,
No.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not.
Yeah. Mm, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm, yeah. Same. Mm, midnight. Yeah. I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah,
Yeah.
I do too. Last point that I wanna say, and Joe, I would love to hear kind of a little bit about your routine, but in all this, guys, if you're doing the routine and you're doing the work and you're still sick, you got to look at stress. If you're not managing stress on this journey, stress is dumping cortisol. So I talk
Mhm.
about the cycle: the illness, fear and anxiety, stress, and next thing you know, you're in a loop. You have to accept certain situations that we know we can't change. Some of you guys might be in relationships that you might not be able to get out of right away, so you have to accept it. There has to be that radical acceptance and begin to plan change. So if you need to get out, or maybe you're in a situation financially that you can't change right away, make a plan, but you have to accept it, because if you're doing all this work and you're still constantly staying in stress, that's still a state of dysregulation. So I think that
Yeah.
becoming avoidant of stress is and we all have stress, but it's how we manage it and deal with it that ultimately determines how quickly we get better. But
Exactly.
I would love to hear kind of about your routine, Joe, and then we can kind of.
Yeah, I'll do a quick sort of my morning routine at the very least. Because this is my mornings are sacred to me. Like honestly, it's the first thing I will say before I go on. All of this stuff has to be looked at as a lifestyle shift, as an act of self care and self love. If you look at it like I need to fix my body, I need to do this, otherwise I won't heal. It kind of counteracts because it's like this forceful place, and we don't ever heal from force. So I want to say that. But for me, my routine is very simple. I wake up every morning, I get out of bed, I make my green tea, I put that on, I do my qigong, then I grab my journal, and as I'm drinking my green tea, I journal gratitude, affirmations, what could go right today, and then my intentions for the day. So that's in our journal, which here, let me grab it. Anyone can see we have, and we're going to do a little giveaway here with Christina and her journal as well, because I think it's really important. The other thing I will say, on my computer here, I throw on binaural beats every morning of like 432 hertz, 528 hertz, like these relaxing scenery as I'm journaling.
Does it
Um,
help? So I haven't been one that's done a lot.
I
I heard
do.
both of you guys talk about it. Is it? I mean, what's it do for your nervous system?
It just calms. It just feels when you have this like relaxing music, it just puts you at ease. I don't know about you, Christina, but yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep,
That's
yeah.
all.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, yeah, I love that. And yeah, so for those of you guys that have never experimented with that, I would just throw it like that's been something that I've done from since I like relapsed after getting COVID 2.5 years ago. It was like I would put on binaural beats in the morning, and just because my alarm systems were going off. So even with that, it kind of just helped just a little bit. So I go through that. I do my visualization. We have like probably like 10 to 15 different YouTube. Like Josh created a meditation. We use Joe Dispenza's morning meditation. There's some by a creator called Life by Lucy that we love, and they just so I do like my meditation, my visualization. After that, I get up. I either go to the gym or go for a walk. I go for a walk and I'll be listening to like music, affirmations, whatever. Sometimes my sports talk radio that I'm into. And then I come home, get ready for the day, go out. And this is the last thing, guys. I do not sit in my house. We do not believe that you can heal by sitting in your house all day. I mean, we understand it if you're someone that has to take care of kids or whatever, and you can't really readily leave. But
Take them to a park. I got 4 kids.
exactly. I'm a big believer in getting out of the house and experiencing life again. So I go to a cafe every single day. I work on my laptop, do design work or whatever. I go to the park. I get out in nature. I go like I said, I go skateboard. I go just different places or whatever. So that's kind of my morning routine in a nutshell. Sometimes instead of the gym, today I did like a 20-minute yoga session. I'll put on like a YouTube video, and all of this stuff is just here to build that safety in my body, to help calm down the stress response, to help me sort of nurture my body and do things that are going to help me heal. And that's what it's all about. I don't ever look at it like I'm doing this and then like looking at my watch like, am I healed yet? Is it helping? Like you can't do that.
Yeah,
you know Yeah. Mhm. Exactly. Yeah. I,
absolutely.
I agree.
Absolutely.
I
So
agree.
thank you, Christina, so much for coming
Yeah.
on here and talking to us. We cherish our relationship with you and just being able to communicate over these
Yeah.
years. All things healing. It's great. You're authentic. So information to be able to connect with her will be in the description for the video.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Like I said, every
Yeah.
Tuesday, either Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, whenever we get it out. There's
Yeah.
a video that comes out every week, but we appreciate you giving your insight and
Yeah.
expertise in this area, and it's been our absolute pleasure connecting with you.
Yeah. Thanks, Christine. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. Likewise. And we'll do a giveaway here soon. It might be part of this what we do, after we release this video where we kind of, do the giveaway for the journals, and then I think we should do another Instagram live, coming up here soon, and connecting in that way as well. So yeah, thanks, Christina. Yeah, thanks for watching, guys. All right, cool. Awesome. Yeah.